Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is my afternoon. Been a challenging few weeks, to say the least. I haven't been on to talk to for much at all. So I thought today could be one of those days. I overcame the morning of a bunch of things, and so just thought it was time to do another little tutorial, another little painting. I'm using this little pad. It's actually a pretty cool little pad. I like it for watercolor. My favorite watercolor paper is hot press. I don't have any of that right now, and it costs a little more. I do have this and a couple of other things, but I'm getting low. I'm going to have to get some more at some point. Right now, it's on the bottom of my list. But I got some beautiful flowers from one of my daughters early for Mother's Day. Beautiful, beautiful bouquet of flowers. And in there were these balls of what I think are hydranges. So I thought, we would just kind of, it's very interesting, those little intricate little flowers that make up that ball. I just think flowers are magical. So, and that's why I think I like flowers with watercolor so much, because flowers themselves to me seem magical. So, they're just so perfect. Few things on earth that are perfect, but he made those flowers perfect. So I thought we would do a bunch of them, maybe like 3 big balls, but in different colors, and different colors within the ball of hydrangea. I think that's what it's called. If I'm wrong, just somebody let me know. But anyway, let's get down to the painting. Okay, so here we are, back down to the painting. Now I noticed, I think what I'm going to do first, all I'm really going to do first is sort of, I don't want it real wet, but I'm just going to kind of make 3, there's going to be 3 fairly large, balls of, the 3 balls that make up that. And at first, all I want to do is I actually had some color left over from something I was doing yesterday. And I'm just going to get it kind of watery. And all I'm going to do first is I'm just going to get a color down, okay? These can be done in 1,000 different ways. This is just something I'm kind of doing. So I've got some purplish and pink, mauve, different colors like that on my palette. And I'm going to put some rose down, and I've got a little bit of purple down, and a mixture of those as well. And I'm just going, and that's going to kind of be my, they're actually like, I'm going to make them a little larger. Whoops, okay, too much water on there. They're sort of like these, kind of hard to describe them really, but they're, let me just paint them and see if I can do a better job at just painting them than describing them. So, and then it just, they have another little set like that comes in, and then it's just these little, and then it has a little center. So you can just kind of, and this is just a painting, so it's not going to be anything perfect by any means. Just one way to do this. And then we can get some of that rose color. And, maybe even, maybe not even a pointed brush is a good idea. I don't know, to tell you the truth. But that's what I'm using. I'm using the pointed one for this particular little exercise. So like I said, I'm going to make large petals. They're clumps of petals. But they're kind of hard to describe. And then in the center, they seem to be just a light, like maybe even a palish kind of yellow in this. I don't know, it's kind of like a, hard to describe, but this little light dot in the center. And of course, every one of these is, a little different a little bit of purple, a little bit of pink, a little bit of blue. So I'm just going to kind of these little shapes in all these different little colors. Like I said, and I'm going to make some big ones, and I'm going to make some little ones. And of course, they all just fit, in this little ball here. Well, big balls, actually. They're fairly large things. And that's all I'm going to do, is just kind of, I'm really not sure if I'm even getting it right, but I thought it'd be just kind of fun to poke them in here. And you just keep varying up your purples, your pinks, your blues on the, get a bunch of little mixes going on there. I might have a little bit too pointed of a thing, but it doesn't matter. This is a like I said, cold pressed paper. Let's get some of the pink. One color I like that's kind of pink is mauve. Actually, I really like that color. But there are all these tiny little flowers, all just sort of together in this big clump of a ball. Interesting. It's so interesting how flowers are. So we just, continue just making these little, they're almost cupped too, as well. And of course, we could make a very watered down version, which is what I will do after I kind of work on this one. But you just keep, adding them until you fill up your ball. And I'll probably do a lot of that off camera and then come back so I don't have a real long... Well, it's spring here. We are getting rain lately, but it's still spring and the warmer weather, so it's nice. Haven't had any heat on for several days. Seems really good. So some are lighter, some are darker, some are pink, some are blue, and some have a little mixture in them as I kind of go around. What I wanted to do, this part is dry now for the most part, but I just wanted a light wash on the background, so it wasn't just white. I think I'm going to add to these colors, I'm going to add in some orange just to vary it up a little bit. Add a little of this color in it and a little of that color in it. And like I said, I'm going to make some of them a little bit bigger than the others, and some of them a little bit smaller. Right now, I think I'm going to do a real large one. Kind of like a cupped. It's very hard to explain. I was going to take one out of my vase to show you, but it doesn't come out. It's in a box type. It came that way, so I don't want to ruin it. It's a beautiful bouquet from one of my daughters. So let's just keep, and we'll just have another. Like I said, you might find an even better way to make these, but they're sort of cupped. So they, you can kind of see the center of each one. So what I did here is I'm taking the color off my brush, getting it dry, taking the tip of my brush and just sort of poking in the center here. Some of it's dry, so it's going to be harder. But, you know, making a center where I can pull out. Now what I'm doing here is with this, sometimes I forget to explain, but we're going to make a little dot, come in and dot it, right? Do it that way, and there's many ways. So we're just going to take these colors, and I'm going to continue offline for the rest of this particular little one, this little ball of it here, and I will come back for the ones that will be more watery. Okay, so I finished this one with all the different colors in it. It's not coming out exactly like what I thought it would, but that's okay. We'll just keep going with this. We'll make one more and we'll make it more watered. So I'm wetting the paper first, and then I'm just going to come in and I'm going to just dab my brush around in the water to, this would be wet on wet. The bottom, the paper's wet, my brush is wet, the paint is wet, and so all I'm really doing here is dabbing these strokes around and around in this wet mixture of paint. And some of them are going to stand out more than others, and some of them are going to fade into the background as I do this, and as the paper, you know, dries and gets drier. All this is going to do its thing, you know, the watercolor thing. So I've got a bunch of different colors here that I'm just wisping all around. I'm being very free with my brush, because really all I want to be standing out are kind of like the tips of the little flowers. So many little tiny flowers, and there's little ones and there's big ones. So you see, I'm really just wisping and you're not going to see much of anything defined. This is wet on wet. So nothing's going to be all that defined unless I go make it that way, which for a couple I will, like that. This is still wet down here. Whoops. Well, it's okay. A little bit too wet. We don't want it dripping down the paper. Okay. And let's add a little bit of yellow in there. The ones that I happen to have in this beautiful bouquet were green ones, actually, a very light, but I wanted to make the colorful ones for this exercise. So do you see, they're the same shapes. I'm doing the same shapes, but instead of very carefully and particularly, I'm just freely moving my hands and the brush in the same design, but very freely and very loosely. And to be honest with you, I really like that for these flowers. I'm going to get some of that pink, and I'm going to come here, rose color with some purple in it, and go to the blue. Add some blue, and I want to get a couple to stick out, you know, be pronounced, but not super pronounced, because this is considered a wet on wet. So this is, you know, basically the difference between on dry paper, which is its own prettiness, if that's a word, and the wet on wet here. Now, I think where I kind of have this paper like this and I'm doing this type of a thing, I'm actually going to do a little something else too. I've got all these colors on my palette, which I just love to do. See, I have, in my mixing around here, I've got quite a few different little blends going on, which is how I get many of my color blends, is just simply by doing all these amazing blends on my palette, and then, you know, oh, that would look good with this, and that would look good with that, while I'm making the painting. And then, you know, I've literally had many people ask me, how did you get that color blend? Well, it's not by just mixing two particular colors of any kind. It's just blending a lot on my palette and letting it happen on my palette. So I'm going to make some of those lavender, I think it's lavender, and we're going to do it the same way, dry paper with a fairly dry brush and paint. There's not a lot of water going on here. And as you can see, I'm, you know, directing the paint and where it's going. Now let's put a little white in there for, I'm using a round brush as well. I'm just adding some white to lighten up one side. And see, it's like this. It's more like this. It's more defined than this, these flowers here. Now let's do the same thing right here. I'll have two separate little things of them. I'm going to start with a little too much water. Start with a little too much water there. Let's just get a little bit of color down first, okay, with some water in it. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to use the tip of my brush, and with a fairly watery brush and watery paper, I'm doing the same thing, dabbing the little dots, but on a much more wet surface, and more wet paint, more wet, the brush is more wet, etc., etc. And you see the difference. It fades to the background, and we're just going to continue with that color while it's on my brush. And we're going to come forward, add a little of the purple and blue into this wet. It's all wet, so it's gonna blend, it's gonna move, it's gonna spread, you know, all that loveliness, because it's wet on wet, which, believe me, has its own incredible beauty. And we'll add some pink. Now, as long as this stays fairly wet, it's just gonna keep blending and moving and doing that sort of thing, because it's, you know, wet on wet. So let that dry just a little bit. And I think what we are going to do is make this into a little bit of a painting. I think. Now, if I'm correct, and I don't know if I am or not, I think that there are little tiny leaves within a hydrangea. So I'm just going to kind of do this. This is kind of dried pretty much now, but I've got quite a bit of water on my brush, so it should blend, and it shouldn't end up being too defined. So there we go for that. Over here, I'll take a lot of the water off my brush, get the paint a bit less watery, and put some in here. They don't look too much different, but they will be more defined, as you can see, because I'm not doing wet on wet. I'm doing wet on dry, they call it. So I'm just using the tip down, just like we do on many of the other kinds. So that's, you know, that's pretty. Adding some greenery in there. So I guess what we can do, folks, is I'm going to do some watery leaves. Let's keep going with this as a painting. Let's add these, get some other colors going on. It's been so quiet with all the rain lately. I decided to put the sound of the birds and everything on the TV on. I just love hearing birds, and I miss them lately. With all this rain, they don't do much chirping, you know? So that's actually not the color I wanted. We're going to take a little of this off. Oh, that kind of makes its own thing. Let's get in a little lighter green here. Watery. There we go. That's more of what I was kind of looking for, a more cheerful green. Okay, there we go. And right beside it, we'll do another. And I still have quite a bit on my brush, you see? And I bumped up against this one. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to put I meant to put the watery ones over here. That's okay. No harm, no foul. I'm not even worried about it. But here I bumped up against that, and it brought over the green. I had some on my brush, so it continued, which I love to do. Move it around a little, make a highlight, and there we have those two leaves. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here where I meant to start. I got water on my brush, a little bit of color still, but see, I'm taking some color from this pink area and bringing it down to the leaf. Then I'll come back here and I'll add some color, but that's another way you can do that. You got a bunch of mixtures going on, and it's still fairly wet. This one is still pretty wet, as you can see. And while this is kind of doing something, I'm going to come over here to this red, rose and red, and I wanted to accentuate with a little bit of purple in it, I guess, and get a couple of these a lot more defined now that it's dried. See, just a couple here and there to say this is what, you know, that's what they actually look like. So I've got some a little faded in the distance, some way faded from the wash, the wet wash, and then I have ones right here that I'm making more defined. Let's put one more pink one in there that's real defined. That's a little too much defined. There. All right, so that's how that goes. And then with a bit of a wet brush, I'm going to come onto the top here. I'm going to swing it around into the purple part that I have, bringing out a little bit of that color. And just kind of adding in another leaf. Very wet on wet. See, you can tell it's moving all around. Dab a little bit out for a highlight. Same thing over here. Same thing here. And when you take it out, you can go around and put it into here, take it out of there, you know, all these fun things. Now, as you can see, these were the watered down, the lavender ones. So I want to come in with a bit more color, but it's purple and rose. And I want to add some defined, some of them. Not very many, just a few on top because it's dried. And just sort of take a little water and smudge them around a little bit. Maybe some more of the pink. But we don't want this very defined because it's very much a watered down, the ones that are watered down. So that's probably sort of dab here and there versus these that are, but we can also go on top of those. Like if I want to take a red and I want to add some red to one side or part of it, and this is on dry. This is with my brush. See, it's not dripping. I don't have water dripping off my brush. And the paint's not moving around there because it's what they call wet on dry. Or dry on dry if I wanted to take even more of the water out than I even have. Which I could do and come over here so that I have hardly any water going on, only the little bit that's kind of accumulated in my brush. And then we have that. A little purple in there, but it's not moving around and it's not blurry. It's pretty defined. So I think probably we're going to call that good. I don't want these to go very long. So here, actually there's one other thing I did want to do here, because even with these defined, I wanted to really make a couple of them definitely stand out more so than, there we go. That's kind of what I was looking for a color. On top of the others, so that it's saying, yeah, this is how they actually look. I wanted to get a blue, but that came out more. There we go. So there we have it, folks. Some cute little couple balls of hydrangeas, both in dry on wet and wet on wet. And then the leaves the same. Oh, we didn't do, okay, we'll do the leaves. I mean, I'll get it some green color. I did not wet the paper first. My brush is wet to a degree, and my paints I've sprayed, but this is not a wet on wet leaf. I'm directing all this paint and water, right? From the different things you've all learned so far, I'm sure. It looks different than the others because it is different. It's not wet on wet, so let's take a blue one. And I even like sometimes when that happens with the dry effect. See, there's little dry paint, wet white areas, and I like that when that happens because it makes it look more real. It's like highlights that are happening by themselves. So that's it. That's really it, folks, of what I wanted to do with you on this particular Tuesday morning, or afternoon actually by now. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a few little tips out of that. I always suggest washing your brushes off right away, then shaping them like this to keep the points. No matter if it's a flat, you just, take it off, dry it, flatten it out with your hands, form it. Same with this, with any of them, just sort of to keep their shapes. That's the whole idea. And it does work. I can say that it does make a difference. Because sometimes I, get kind of a little bit rough. If I'm making these, I'll try to, not do it roughly. But it does disturb the shape, so putting it back into shape helps a lot. So I really do hope you've enjoyed this, folks, and I hope you have a really great rest of your day. Check out some of my other stuff, and bye for now.